Hey, this is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and I'm bringing you guys a first impressions for the demo of The Last of Us. And this is actually the first time that I've ever purchased one game just to play a different one, which in this case is just a demo for The Last of Us. Luckily, the game was God of War Ascension, which I didn't mind paying $40 for, but I wasn't all that impressed with the first stage that I played earlier of that game. But I had posted a video talking about some of the upcoming games that I was and wasn't going to cover, and I said that I was considering doing The Last of Us, and I had several of my subscribers ask me and tell me that they wanted me to review that one. So that's why I decided to go ahead and pick up God of War and do this demo first impressions today. Now, to start with, I haven't spent any time researching this game. I haven't watched any trailers for it. I read a small article about it in a Game Informer magazine. I know a lot of people have been commenting and talking about it. A lot of people are really amped up about it because Naughty Dog is working on it, which is the same group that of course brought us the Uncharted series. I was a big fan of Uncharted 2's single player story, and I spent a few weeks playing the online multiplayer on that one, but I didn't play the first or the third game in that series. Long story short, I went into this first impressions with a clean slate and absolutely no expectations. The very first thing that I noticed that was special about this game is the way the camera moves, pans, and shifts. It made walking around feel a lot different than most other games. It's very cinematic with how you're walking around, which for this demo is especially a good thing because you spend 75% of the time just exploring with not a lot going on. And going off just the demo, it appears as if this would be a very slow-paced adventure, but watching the trailer that plays after the demo shows some very hectic scenes and a lot of action, so it very well could be a lot more intense in other portions of the game, and I think it will be. But if the entire game was exactly like the pacing of the 15 minutes of this demo, it might not end up being as great as everyone would want it to be. And I've seen other games this year release demos that really didn't grasp exactly what you were going to get out of the full game. Metal Gear Rising is a very good example of that. This demo felt more like a teaser than anything else, and I'll point this out because someone that doesn't know anything about this game, that hasn't read up on it or watched any other videos for it, if they watch a video of someone walking down a bunch of empty rooms for the majority of this demo, they may get a bad impression of the game, or worse, they'll just get bored watching it and close the video before ever seeing the real game. In the 1 minute and some change trailer that plays at the end, it's very clear that there's going to be a lot of very pivotal and emotional points in the story that could turn an average survival game into something spectacular. It showed a lot of very cool looking environments that you're going to be traveling through, and is it just me, or does the little girl remind anybody else of a younger version of the new re-imaged Lara Croft that we saw a few months back? For all I know, they may have been working on this game long before the people that made Tomb Raider, so I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but she looked kind of the same to me. Anyways, from a demo standpoint, the section of the game that they pulled for this 15 minutes was just very slow again, and only one frantic section at the end that has you getting swarmed by a group of the infected. The problem with the way the demo is set up is that it opens up without any type of explanation as to where you are in the game. You don't have any idea what this environment is or what's going on at that point, and I think if they had just better introduced the player with a cutscene or even just some written dialogue to attach you to that moment or that point in the game, then it may have made the first 13 minutes a lot more interesting. Graphically, the game looks great. It's exactly what you would expect from the people that made the Uncharted series. There's a lot of variation in colors and attention to detail. They did a good job of making the game dark, but not so dark that you just absolutely cannot see anything if you turn your flashlight off, which is a good thing because some game developers, they just make the games way too dark. Outdoors, the rain and the puddles on the ground look phenomenal. The only real small nitpick that I have, which some people may disagree with, was the way the flashlight looks. At certain distances it looked great, and it certainly is effective with the way that it lights up the room and the environment, but at other distances it seemed like the outer ring was just a bit too sharp, and I didn't notice an actual beam of light emitting between my character and where it's hitting the wall, and at certain angles it just didn't look that realistic to me. There's also no dust particles or mist that you can clearly see in the beam, which is something that you would just kind of expect to see if you're walking through a dark, dilapidated building that's in other games similar to this one. Even when I'm dragging an object across a dirty floor or I'm opening doors or desks, you're just not seeing much going on in that regard. But with as nice as everything else looks, this again is just going to be a small nitpick. The controls were very responsive and they felt good. I had a little trouble aiming at first, but that's just being me new to the game and out of practice. It will sharpen up once I put some hours into it. While the controls felt crisp, your character movement's just a little floaty, sort of similar to Red Dead Redemption, as in he may take an extra step here or there, or he may not walk perfectly in a straight line, which I guess kind of adds a little bit of realism. As far as my bottom line first impression of the game, the demo didn't impress me all that much. I saw a lot of potential with what could be a great survival game. However, the trailer that plays at the end after the demo, that did leave me excited to play this game. You don't get to do any crafting in the demo, and it was again pretty short and uneventful for the most part, except for the action at the end. But I have a lot of faith in Naughty Dog delivering a really great story and some intense and suspenseful moments. And I think the story is ultimately going to decide how good this game's going to be. The one combat section was pretty brutal, and it appears as if the combat where you're fighting for your life is going to be a lot of fun once things heat up. But I really need to see more of this game before saying anything else. Anyways, that's pretty much all I have for this video. This is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and thanks for stopping by.